Proudfoot looked pretty unstoppable at Eldora, but the wide-open nature of that track will contrast sharply with Weedsport. This asymmetric circuit is incredibly tricky to master and feels practically claustrophobic in comparison. Can he adapt to one of iRacing's newer tracks? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Weedsport's claim to fame is, of course, being the flagship track for the Super Dirt Car Series. But there's so much more to this New York circuit, so let's head to our track guide.
Welcome to the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds and home to Weedsport Speedway. Located only about 60 miles from another famous New York track, Watkins Glen, and a stone's throw away from Lake Ontario, this place puts on a lot of action in the dirt variety. This 3/8 of a mile clay surface oval is unique because of its shape. The front straightaway is straight, but outside of that, this place is totally asymmetrical. Heading into one, many guys will make a sharp apex, swing out, and then apex again for turn 2. It's not the sweeping corner that it looks like from a track map. The exit into 2 leads onto the curved backstretch that gives the speedway a D shape. But the backstretch blends into turn 3, and it's not nearly as sharp as an entry as 1. But you head off into 4 and get another apex that'll set you up for the front stretch. A lot of driving happens in 3/8 of a mile. In 1975, Weedsport's then owner founded what has become the Dirt Car Series, and Weedsport was its home. So it is more known for stock car and modified racing, but those sprints appear here as well. In fact, both USAC and World of Outlaws sprint cars make regular trips, but those big block modifieds are king here. But it is a weekly track, so you have your usual complement of local modified, stocks, and other classes. Don't let the only 11 degrees of banking in the sharper corners here fool you. This place is fast and action-packed. Now it's time to see who will rise above at Weedsport here on GSRC.
Well, from the practically completely circular oval-like track that we had at Eldora, DJ, we show up at this compact little 3/8 mile circuit.
Yeah, it is leaps and bounds different from where we were at Eldora, as you mentioned. Just 0.37 miles, absolutely tiny and asymmetrical as all can be. You dive into this first corner, it's super tight, and then opens up as you come around to the second. You dive into the third corner, and it's nice and wide and open, only to tighten up on you as you come out of turn 4. And what that's going to mean for tonight with these street stocks is it's a lot of precision, Joe. We watched these guys last week. It was very hard to run anywhere but really the low line. That was the best way to get around here. Passing is going to be very difficult, and I think, honestly, track position in qualifying and in the heats is going to be king here tonight.
We'll keep an eye on that qualifying when we get to it, but before we do, we need to head off to the championship points after the first round. And of course, up at the top of those, Brandon Proudfoot leading Steven Spies by 4 points, with the same amount back to Justin Morton and the same amount back to J.R. Shepard. Finally, we get a little bit of a split of about 8 points down to Kenny Kibbe. It's only one round in, so we expect that to shuffle around quite a bit after tonight's race. In the meantime, we also have race details for today's event. DJ, why don't you run us through that?
Well, this is the second of 11 races in the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series. We are racing those classic dirt street stocks here on the iRacing service. It is a heat race format, so everybody will go out and qualify, and then they will grid up in 5 to 6 car heats, depending on how many people we get on the track tonight. 24 cars will make the feature. We are currently sitting at 18 entries, so it looks like it will be everybody onto the feature. There will be a B main, though, to determine order in that feature. And now the important thing in terms of driving the car, it is a fixed setup tonight. So everybody's running the exact same thing. It is all driver skill and talent that is going to be getting you to the front of the field.
And I think a lot of talent is certainly going to be needed here today. One thing I've noticed over time, both driving and calling races in these street stocks, is they're very much momentum cars, DJ. And with the way that those first two turns are, there you see right there as Davis goes through, God, it's so tight into there. I mean, how in the world do you keep the speed going through that portion in these things?
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, Joe. They're very, very momentum-heavy cars. They have the worst power-to-weight ratio on the iRacing service, and so you have to try to keep not only the speed, but the revs up as you go in. And for me personally, one of the ways that I know I've been able to get around here relatively quickly is you have to sort of brush the brakes, get that car to rotate while you're still on the throttle. So it's almost like you're going in to a drift style type event. You've got to keep those revs up, try to not let them die off, and that's the way to do it. Throw the car into a spin and just keep that right foot in as much as you can to keep rotation going.
I also saw from that onboard a few of the cars actually hitting the inside wall. And I know as I was watching the Midgets race, the event that Bootleg holds before these street stocks, one even clipped the inside on the entry to 4 and took quite a tumble. I'm hoping that won't be as much of an issue with these street stocks because they're closed fender, but I mean, you could still catch it, I'm sure.
You certainly can, and if memory serves, Joe, I think somebody actually did that last year coming into turn 4, that they clipped the inside of it. As I mentioned it during the track guide, you know, that third and fourth corner, it just tightens up almost so unexpectedly on you, and that retention wall on the inside can really, really come out to bite you if you're not ready for it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to see it again tonight.
Oh boy, well, that'll be a big wreck, that's for sure, if that happens. And they are front engine, so anticipate that could be a blown motor. Now, they will have that spare car, so hopefully they'll be able to pop in and put a new engine in and get back out and try to compete. As we continue to watch our fastest runner in the warm-up, Justin Morton, he's not letting off on the laps. Something that is different this season compared to last season that we saw really affect the way that the track evolves is, well, they don't send the water trucks out now at any point over the course of the event here, DJ. And you said it's pretty single line, and I mean, we're only in the midst of the warm-up before even qualifying, and I'm seeing a very, very slicked up line.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very slick track, and it's going to be a lot of trying to read it as it goes along. You see there as Morton goes through, there's a little strip of moisture down on the inside. Now, we saw Brandon Proudfoot last season go down to that line on a couple of tracks. I believe Kokomo, he was doing it really, really well, just being able to get the car down there onto that line and hold it. But I think some of these guys may try to run a little bit high because of how slicked in everything is. There you see Justin Morton not being able to catch the cushion on the outside as much as he wants to, and you see the danger of trying to do that. You get that angle just wrong, your rear tires are too much onto the slick, and goodbye, good night, you are in the wall.
Now we're on board with the double lot of Billy Northcutt, watching as he is just behind Chris Davis. They are second and third, Chris in second and third for Billy in the warm-up currently. Again, that doesn't mean a whole lot necessarily, as the track will continue to evolve and the speed is going away from it, but still something to consider as they are well up the timing sheets and maybe could try and challenge Morton here today. I do see that Proudfoot is here, and the 22 is also actually down in 14th currently. So Brandon Proudfoot apparently either struggling or just has come in and not set a lap until very late here in this warm-up. They got about 5 more minutes left to find something out there, and then they'll have to take to qualifying.
Yeah, Joe, I think Brandon did come in to the session a little late, wasn't able to get down on a really nice green track. You know, Justin Morton, that top time with the 18th dead, that was set very, very early on as we saw him out there running. Granted, he wasn't taking like an optimal qualifying line, a little bit more of just kind of experimenting on the high side. but he was running 18.8s, so about 0.8 of a second off. And everybody else that is out on track right now, the fastest time that I'm seeing put down is about an 18.5, and that being by Carl Kilgore. And even that was a couple of minutes ago. So this track rubbers in. It gets harder and harder to get a fast time. I suspect that's what happened to Brandon, as we have seen him excel at literally every kind of track that the iRacing service has to throw at him.
So doesn't need to be considered dire yet, it sounds like. As I see Ron Snyder in the 29 returning to the circuit. It is fixed setup here, so the drivers don't need to worry about trying to tweak anything. It's all how much practice they want to put down here in the warm-up session. Now 3 minutes left to go. And actually only 2 of them out there now, Snyder and Proudfoot, that I mentioned earlier. Looks like Morton is going to return to the circuit here in just a moment. There he is. So glad to see him try and get a little bit more in so that we have something to look at. Of course, as I mentioned, also one of the newer tracks here on the iRacing service. So familiarity for this one isn't quite to the level that we saw at a place like Eldora, which was among the first circuits of the dirt ovals that showed up here in the sim.
Most certainly. And, last season I felt very, very sorry for these guys. They went out and they ran Weedsport here about 2 weeks after it was released on the sim. So absolutely no time. About maybe a month or so to get it under their belts now. So we're able to have a little bit more familiarity this time around.
Absolutely. And that experience should probably play a big part in things, especially with the ever-evolving track that dirt racing provides. Coming along the curved backstretch there, you can see just never quite got straight before Morton chucks it into 3 and 4. Comes down the front stretch all the way up to the wall, nearly brushing the concrete on the outside. And you can see how much momentum he loses through 1 and 2. These laps go by very, very quickly. Only 18-second laps like DJ was just talking about. And they will get 4 of those laps during the qualifying to try to set their quickest time. It will be the fastest that counts for it. It's not an average. It is whatever is the fastest lap that you put among those 4. And that is where you will be slotted in for the heats, and which will have 6 cars in each heat at maximum for only 6 laps. So it'll be very, very short in those heats if they do find themselves gridded towards the back of their group, DJ.
Yeah, you do not want to be in the back of the field for any part of this race. Where we were at Eldora last week, if something happened in front of you, obviously momentum plays a huge factor, but a lot of times you're able to get some sort of avoidance on a wreck. Around here, the absolutely claustrophobic confines, like you said, Joe, if something happens in front of you, there's not a whole lot of room for you to get out of the way.
Right now it's wide open track, though, for Justin Morton in the practice. Has pretty much his own little section to himself in the final 30 seconds here as we get ready to go racing here in New York. Interesting note about this track as well is it was cut out of a berry patch, apparently, of all things. I love some of the history of, especially of the dirt tracks, because they certainly tend to seem a lot more quaint, shall we say it, just unique little factoids about them, because they were such homegrown operations most times.
They are, and you always hear the clamor on the service of everybody saying, oh, why don't you add this track? Why don't you add that track? Because everybody wants to go to their home track that they have, that they grew up watching sprints and midgets go around. So very much a special connection, I think, that everybody has to dirt.
All right, there's the end of the warm-up. Checkered flag is out. Let's see who's going to be among the first of our drivers to try and get out onto the surface and put one down. I see Chris Davis exiting. So it looks like the number 7 is so far set to be the first driver to get a time in. Starting to see the lights flicker on as well. Just like most of our races here in the dirt side, it's going to be under the lights. As he comes around, tries to square it off. Looks like he got a little loose, though. Is he going to lose those precious hundredths of a second just from that one little bobble? Keeps it about mid-track as he's on his first flyer. Runs it up high, just below the cushion. And Chris Davis comes to be the first to set a time. It is going to be an 18.735. Waiting for the rest of them to meet him. Hjorth in second, Hart in third. Now we got Seneker up in a second. More of them tumbling in. Hetherington, Davis, Northcutt now goes up to the top time.
And here is your practice leader, Justin Morton, unable to repeat his time as Snyder is able to go to the top of the charts with an 18.576. Brendan Myers on his lap here with an 18.6. Joe Sigala going to come across the line with an 18.8. Obviously seeing nothing close to Morton's 18.10. Can Davis improve his time? Yes. No, he cannot. He is going to stay 7th for now.
He's got one last lap to try and improve it. He's already been shuffled down into 7th. This is Robbie Robinson in 3rd. That lap not an improvement. Billy Northcutt, in the meantime, stays P4. His first lap has been his quickest, and Justin Morton up to the top.
Good run from Morton. I was a little scared. He got really bobbly coming there off of 4, but able to keep it under control. Here comes Billy Northcutt, currently 4th. He was quick for a while. He is unable to improve by a couple of 100 seconds, so that's not going to be good for him. Morton tries to go faster, though. He does not, but he will still be in P1. Ron Snyder and Robbie Robinson behind him.
Let's head over to Brandon Proudfoot because he is on his way. His first time. Looks like, actually, no, that one not going to count as he is now on his first flyer. Still waiting for J.R. Shepard and Steven Spees. The only other two are yet to set a time. We come down to the line, first time lap. 18.6 for Proudfoot. Only good enough for 7th. Could still find some improvement. This is Billy Northcutt. And his last lap, unfortunately, only good enough for 5th.
And there you see Proudfoot working down on that low line. He's going to come across the line with an 18.455. That's going to bump him up to 2nd. Good job for him. J.R. Shepard currently 11th, also running that low line. Let's see what J.R. can do across the line with an 18.588. That is going to put him in 6th place. Not the normal run we've seen from him. There you see, all right, Steven Spees now going to cross the line. He's currently 4th. Does he have anything in the tank? Yes, he does. An 18.451. That puts him in 2nd place.
And Brandon Proudfoot did not improve on his 3rd lap, so the 22 continues to cycle around as we also see J.R. Shepard not able to find anything on that 3rd lap. Proudfoot across the line. Oh, and lap number 2 will be his best. He'll be no better than 3rd.
He will still be able to start on pole for one of the heats with that. J.R. Shepard unable to improve his time. He will stay 6th. It's got to be a little disappointing for J.R. Here comes Steven Spees working that high line. It's been working for him earlier. Can he go any faster? He cannot. He will stay 2nd with a 4.50. And there you see Proudfoot's last lap just very off. I think he's put in all his times, just getting a few practice laps out here.
Yep, everybody has put a time in from here. So our qualifying is indeed done. And what's curious is as I go through, it does seem that lap 2 was the quickest for a lot of our drivers. So I'm assuming that maybe a little bit of fall off from the tires after you get that 2nd run around, and couldn't really do much unless you had a bad one on that 2nd lap. Proudfoot now the only one continuing to cycle his way around, showing why he has so many wins under his belt in this series. Just does not relent here. Continues to try and garner any information possible to find yet more tricks, times, and little secrets. We're just going to watch from his perspective these last few seconds in the qualifying. We'll then get to our first heat of the day. Just a moment. Again, this is run by heats, and then they will have a B main, a consolation race, and then on to the feature. But all 20 will be taking part in the feature unless someone has a connection problem. Our first grid for the day, it is Carl Kilgore on the pole. Ron Snyder starts in 2nd. After that, it is Chris Davis starting 3rd, Joe Sigala in 4th, and Gary Clinton in 5th.
Joe, I'm going to be keeping my eye out for that black and yellow number 7 starting in third, Chris Davis. He has had a good end to the season last year, had a pretty good time out last week. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do from that position. He may be moving up, but massive kudos here to Carl Kilgore, putting it at the top of the charts. Really, really mega run from Carl here tonight.
Just waiting for the pace truck to lead them around now that everybody is gridded. We'll get 2 laps behind that pace truck. And we will get going here for 6 very fast laps in the first heat of the day. This will determine who goes immediately to the feature and who is sent to the B main to try and determine their starting position. Top 3 will advance rather. So right now in their starting positions, Kilgore, Snyder, and Davis are safe. Segala and Clinton are the ones that will have to overtake cars to manage to automatically transfer through.
Yeah, and something to watch here, Joe, is going to be the bite off the line that these guys get coming through that very difficult, tightening fourth corner. If you're on the inside line, I've got to think you're going to be able to square up the car really well, get it pointed straight, and absolutely take off. If you're stuck along the outside, the tail may slide a little bit. You may get a little bit of a drift. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers handle that as the green flag flies.
Here we go as the pace truck is getting ready to peel in. There it goes. Kilgore has control, and the green flag is out. It's off like a shot down into the first corner. Too wide into there as everybody tries to tiptoe around one another on the inside. Davis making good use of that and sneaking past Snyder into P2.
You see him start to bunch up as they get through the corner, and there it is! The first hit into the wall! Big smack there from Kilgore.
Wow. And Kilgore went flying. Amazingly, nobody hit him. We do not have cautions in these heat races. Apparently, we are seeing some damage on the front of Chris Davis, so he must have clipped him just a little bit there. As they continue on around, let's hope that it's not engine damage on that number 7. He's still being chased by Snyder. That means our transfer drivers are currently Davis, Snyder, and Segala, who gets bumped up to third.
You know, Joe, we've seen it time and time again that sometimes these cars take a lick and they just keep on going. Exactly what Chris Davis is able to do here as he continues to set fastest laps. But there goes Carl Kilgore, not to be outdone. Damage clearly not terminal on that car with an 18.568.
Setting the fastest lap of the heat at this point. We're down to 2 to go. Chris Davis feeling the pressure. Ron Snyder unfortunately lost that second place, which then became the lead. And the very first corner, looks like he might want it back, but again, he does not need to pass. All he does is lose some starting positions, which will be valuable, as we heard DJ mention, but is not mission critical at this time. Final lap around. Chris Davis not opening the door at all for Ron Snyder. So with a little bit of luck and surviving a car flashing over his head, Chris Davis is going to win the first heat of the night here in the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series.
And Chris Davis has got to be thanking his lucky stars on that one. Carl Kilgore, absolute heartbreak for him. But Joe, I got to say, during the B main and the A main, I got to be keeping my eye on him as he was very quick, even with that damage.
It bodes well for him, but only in the sense that he'll at least have that pace advantage. This brings us to Heat 2 now, and it is Steven Spies who will start on the top spot with J.R. Shepard in second. Brennan Myers starts P3 and John Wilson fourth. Damien Hjorth rounds out your top 5.
Well, Joe, and this front row is very much a battle we've seen time and time again. Shepard and Spies, 2 of the perennial top 5 drivers in this series. So this is going to be fun to see what these guys can do. I think this may be a little bit of a preview of what we see happening later on in the night in the A main feature.
I think that Steven Spies will be hoping for a better run here in the street stocks than what he saw in the midgets a little bit earlier. He unfortunately had a big wreck doing exactly what we just saw from Kilgore. And then, unfortunately, when he tried to come back to the track, he actually spun it immediately into the wall and pulled the caution out, despite not really hitting anybody and not being in the way of anybody at the time. Getting ready for the next green flag here for heat number 2. We saw P2 change hands in the very first corner. Is Brennan Myers going to be able to sneak by J.R. Shepard on the outside of that front row? Green flag is out. Away goes Steven Spies down to the first corner. Good start for J.R. Shepard. He immediately covers it off.
Yeah, and you can see Spies there getting a really good jump off the line, moving back to the outside before cutting off any attack from Shepard. This field running in relatively single file order, but Spies a little bit wider off the corner there, and that looks like it helped him. He's able to pull about a car length over Shepard here.
All of them just single file in a line. Hjorth struggling there at the back in the 66 car currently. The only one really dropping off. One little mistake could open the door for any of these drivers as we come down to 4 laps to go. Spies leading them in a way wide slide for the number 98 of J.R. Shepard, trying to send it in with as much speed as he can.
And that's one of the things here at Weedsport. You cannot try to take too much speed into turn 1. You have to be very, very precise and frankly slow on your entry to be able to maximize speed off the end, as Spies is able to now pull that gap out to about 2.5, 3 car lengths here, setting fastest lap after fastest lap.
It's like someone at least trying to go low on entry. Brennan Myers in 3rd place, trying to take that 25 to a line where those two ahead are not. And we hop on board with him, see if he sees something that we can't from the TV cams. Look at that, very much not running where anybody in front of him is.
Well, Joe, and you saw it as he came out of turn 1. The car almost came to a complete stop as he did it. We'll see if he does it here again as they take the white flag, 1 to go. Yeah, right about there. It almost comes to a complete stop. Rotation of the car completely stopping.
Not quite working for him, but at least he's trying something. Steven Spies tried to win, and from pole, he's going to do so here in the second heat of the night for the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. Shepard second. 3rd goes to Myers. That means Wilson and Hjorth will be sent to the consolation race to determine their starting positions in the feature. All right, we are now to heat number 3 out of 4. It is Brandon Proudfoot who starts on the pole, with Robbie Robinson in 2nd and Jason Best in 3rd, Brian Sineker 4th, and Chris Hazlip in P5.
Joe, we are not used to seeing Brandon Proudfoot start anywhere but first in that first heat, so this is a bit of a shocker to have him leading off with the 3rd best qualifying time. I'm really going to be watching his lines here, trying to figure out exactly what he's going to do and if he's got something stored up in the tank for the likes of Steven Spies.
From what we've seen of him so far, I don't think that he is panicking currently. I think that he pretty much knows what he's doing. Good news is, I mean, at least with his qualifying, it put him at the front of the fields and in the heat that he is slotted into. So he'll kick it off with clear track in front of him. Always very valuable here in dirt racing. We come around on the 2nd pace lap. Robbie Robinson going to be watching closely so that he can get the jump along with the 22 and prevent Jason Best from taking P2 away from him. Pace truck now motioning that it's going to leave into the pit lane. It's off. Brandon Proudfoot is away very early. Green flag is out, and it's a horrible jump, unfortunately, for Robinson. Down in the first corner, just bumping the inside wall. Best holds on to it, and he'll retain 2nd place.
But Robinson's not to be outdone, starts to fight his way back to the inside with Best going wide on the outside. Whew, I thought for a second Robinson was going to tag that inside wall, but doesn't do it. Slots back into line. Meanwhile, J.R. Shepard starting to pull away a little bit. Ooh, thought he was going to make contact with the wall on the outside there, but able to keep it under control.
Behind them, fourth and fifth are squabbling amongst each other, so really not much of a threat despite these two fighting hard. Robbie Robinson still poking his nose in here and there, seeing if he could try and find a way past the 47. He's pinched down to the bottom, and he does clip the inside wall in two.
So easy to do that here at Weedsport. We've been talking about it all night, but he's able to keep up the speed and momentum here to keep it going. There you see Robbie Robinson doing anything he can do as they cross the line. 2 laps to go. Brandon Proudfoot sitting the fastest lap of the race.
Ahead of them, Proudfoot is just eking away at about 1.1 seconds currently. Now down to 2 to go, as Jason Best gets himself the biggest buffer he's seen all race ahead of Robbie Robinson. Robinson looks like he's struggling with just 1 more to go at the line.
Yeah, Robinson just not having the end of this race that he would like to have. Clearly something not setting well. You can see the car squiggling around coming off the corner, but the white flag taken for Brandon Proudfoot on his way to a heat race win.
22 swings it around and down low here through 3 and 4. He's been doing that a couple laps. Victory for Brandon Proudfoot in heat number 3. Best in second, Robinson in third, with Sineker and Hazlip being sent to the consolation race for their next event. But the next race is going to be heat number 4, the last of our heat races, and Justin Morton will be our driver starting on the pole of that one. Billy Northcutt will be P2, and Matt Chinoski is in the inside of the second row in third. Todd Hetherington starts fourth, and Jeffrey Harden last of the field in the final heat today.
Now, Joe, we saw just how much Justin Morton was working that outside lane during practice, trying to see if there was anything happening out there. I'm going to be very interested to see if he jumps back out to that, or if he does what we've seen most of the leaders do, which is sort of take a almost modified slider line into the corner, cutting in real low on one, and then letting the car slide up the track.
Find out in about a lap and a half of pacing which way he'll elect to go. Man, look at how wide that slicked up line is. All that darkness that you see there in the middle of the track, that is rubber being put down, and that does not offer a lot of grip. And you can see there's not much track left that'll offer grip in that case. That's why many are struggling to try and overtake. Coming around through 1 and 2 once again. Morton also got to hope to avoid what Kilgore did. We can't forget that everybody is vulnerable to the same sort of mistake.
Most certainly, Weedsport is a very, very tricky track, and Kilgore is certainly not the first to make that mistake, but here goes the pace truck indicating it's going to turn off, and we're ready to go green.
Pace truck is in the lane, and there goes Justin Morton with a great jump. Northcutt looked like he got caught snoozing slightly, but he covers off Matt Chinoski in third. Down behind him, struggling to keep the car straight, is Harden and Hetherington. Harden goes around. Obviously no caution, he'll just get it going. And a battle for the lead as Northcutt looked to the inside of Morton. Couldn't make it stick though.
That's the first time we've really been able to see a strong challenge like that, so Northcutt clearly got something under him here. Not able to get that good of a run off of turn 2, but as they dive into 3 and 4, let's see what he can do. He's able to take that. Oh, his Morton, I think, clips the inside wall.
I think he managed to avoid it, but it was inches to spare. Car got very loose down on the low side, eating up that rubber on the surface. Northcutt still stuck behind him. Chinoski watching from the popcorn position. Could he take advantage of both if they suddenly come together? Once again, very shallow off the corner. Justin Morton trying to diamond off that exit.
And you can see just how much time it takes off of him. Northcutt able to catch up like nobody's business, setting the fastest lap of the race there with an 18.622. One of the faster times we've seen in these heat races. They cross the line with 2 to go, although it looks like Morton's got it relatively under control.
More so than before. Things were kind of shaky, if I'm honest, those first few laps here in Heat 4. Let's see if he does that line again. Yeah, he's really cutting down across, trying to get as much speed as he can to take the white flag. 1 more to go for the number 9. looking at a victory in the fourth heat of the day. Northcutt's been trying to deny him, only managed to get side by side once so far, and not going to be able to manage it a second time during this heat because Justin Morton finishes with the win in the final heat. It is going to be Northcutt second and Shinosky third, with Hetherington and Hardin now going to the consolation, which is coming up here in just a couple seconds, actually. Should be transferring over. There we go. So let's go through our starting order here today of our 8 cars. It is Gary Clinton starting on the pole of the consolation. Then it's John Wilson starting in second, and Ryan Seneker in third. Rounding out the top half of the field, DJ, it's Todd Hetherington.
And lining up behind him, the unlucky pole sitter Carl Kilgore, followed by Damian Hjorth. Chris Hazlett behind him, and Jeffrey Harden will be bringing up the back of the field. Largest crew we've seen out here tonight at this point, so it's going to be very, very fascinating to see what 8 cars are going to do on this very slicked-in track.
Beautiful sunset off in the distance, too, even though we've got the lights on. We've got the remaining vestiges of the bright sun going down in New York. And again, all 8 drivers will advance into the feature, but this will determine your start position in that feature. So it is important to try and get a good finish so that you're not stuck at the very back trying to make a lot of overtakes. And it will be slightly longer, as it is 10 laps long today.
10 laps around this track, Joe. I've got to imagine with the track state as it is, has got to be absolute hell for these drivers, and it's just going to get worse in the feature. As we've said, no water trucks coming back to reset the track. So at this point, what you are doing if you're the driver on these reconnaissance laps is you are basically looking for any bit of moisture, and the only places I'm seeing it are on the very, very, very low line and just a little bit up by the cushion.
So who dares go all the way to those walls on the inside and flirt with those, and who tries to run the rim around the outside? Gary Clinton has the green flag as the number 6 accelerates away down into the first corner, almost gets a shove from behind. The 75 has to check up. He gets nearly tipped around by Kilgore. And remember, Kilgore is well out of position. He was our fastest qualifier.
He was, and he is on a mission here tonight, trying to work his way, coming across it here in almost a diamond formation as we've got a spinner in the back, it looks like, with no caution here coming out. It's Hazlett who spun in the back, but up front, this action is still electric.
Wow, Kilgore already up into second actually, as he started in 5th place, proving you can pass here. Now he sets his sights on Gary Clinton, thinking just one more position and I give myself the best possible starting spot in the feature race. He's got plenty of laps to do it, as well as we're going to be 7 to go at the line.
Yeah, I think this is almost a sense of inevitability here for Carl Kilgore, clearly the fastest driver in this field. Oh, and you can see him starting to look to the inside in 1. Is he going to be able to hold the momentum? It looks like Clinton gets a little squirrely, and there goes Kilgore.
That 21 car is not going to be denied today. And just, 3.5 laps there? He managed to pass 4 cars and get up to the top spot, and is already running away with things from the number 6. Currently, John Wilson is a ways back from that pair, the 75, having lost some distance. And it's another gap between those two behind him. Hetherington on to Jeffrey Harden in P5, also separated by about 1.5 seconds.
And Joe, I'm watching Carl Kilgore's lines here coming off of 1 and 2 in particular, and they are picture perfect on how to maximize the speed. Watch him as he comes across here, and of course he runs a different line just to prove me wrong, but still the same thing is right. He's got a point right at about halfway through turn 2 where he lets the car run up right near the wall and then just floors it. That's the point when he gets max acceleration off the line, and it really and truly gets good run down the backstretch.
And what's even more incredible is his pace in the race right now is actually about 0.5 seconds faster than even second place. I mean, usually you're talking hundredths, tenths of a second difference between drivers on a dirt oval this short, but Carl Kilgore is well, he's on another planet right now.
He is just running this track to perfection. He's got a gap of about 2.5 seconds to the car behind him of Gary Clinton. And Joe, he's going to be starting, what, 13th in the feature race as he takes the white flag? We got to watch him. This is going to be fun.
Round on to the back stretch. Just half a lap to go here for Carl Kilgore. May have started in 5th. He didn't care about that. He knew he was going to win this race. The 21 takes victory in the consolation, putting him as high as he can possibly go in the feature. Gary Clinton in 2nd, Wilson 3rd, Hetherington 4th, Hardin 5th, Sineker 6th, Hazlip 7th. And did Hjorth see the finish? No, he did not. He retired that one.
So that is going to set us up, Joe, here for a 5-minute practice session. These guys are able to come back out, get a sense of the track once again and just how rubbered in it is. So you're going to see pretty much everybody out here turning some laps, trying to find that little bit of moisture left in the track before we get ready for the feature race.
And a reminder as well that our drivers with the least experience in the on the track at this point are the ones that advanced immediately in the first heat. So Snyder, Davis, and Segala are probably the ones that most want to get out there to try and feel what it's like. Since then, there's been, gosh, in the realm of hundreds of laps, I would say, of drivers putting more rubber on this thing.
Most certainly, and it is one of the drawbacks of getting that qualifying. And then comes the catch-22 of practicing like this, as you see Justin Morton, Chris Davis, Proudfoot, and Kilgore all vying for that tops position. You want to get out, you want to run practice laps, you want to be doing that, but you also want no one else on the track, because more cars on the track means that it's going to get more rubbered in. And so it's this terrible position to be in when you're coming into a practice like this.
Well, that unfortunately is not the case. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers out of 20 that are not on the circuit. So pretty much everybody is currently running and getting that practice in well into the night at this point. And we will get started on our 40-lap feature race. The good news is at least it is a lot more time to try and advance forward if you're out of position, as is the case with drivers such as Kilgore.
It is. You're going to have a lot of chances to do it, and on a very, very tight track like this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a yellow or two. Now, the series really does pride itself as running green to green most times. They're a very clean series, but on a tight, confined track like Weedsport, it can be a little bit difficult, and just the merest little bump in the wall can draw out that caution. So you have to be ready for that and keep yourself ready to do a little bit of stop-starts.
I'm sure our audience is definitely hoping for a nice, clean, and exciting race, but I especially am hoping for a clean and exciting race, because the last two here on the Global SimRacing Channel have both been cautions just straight through Wednesday and Thursday night. Kind of crossing my fingers that I don't have another one where we see the pace truck unfortunately leading the way for the majority of the main event. 2 minutes left here in this qualifying session, and we've got even more of them out there now. Although I think, am I seeing correctly? No, Sineker is still in the session. I thought he was grayed out potentially and maybe had left, but it appears he is still connected to the server, so hopefully we'll see the 61 take part.
Yeah, hopefully we will, getting us up to a nice round number of 20 entries for this feature tonight. And Joe, just talking about the drop-off in times, you know, the first laps these guys were able to do as we ride on board with Joe Segala, oh, you see just how much he's fighting the wheel coming around there, losing a little bit of rotation out of turn 2. But talking about, you know, that 18 deads is what we were looking at during practice. Fastest laps here are about 18.5s, and right now, a couple guys getting close to setting that recently, but not a whole lot. I
was seeing that Go Pack Go on the inside of Joe Segala's car, and I saw that he was Illinois Club, so I figured it was up north, and I checked his stats here from Loves Park, Illinois. I should probably be more familiar because my wife is actually from the Chicago area, but I do not know. I'll have to ask her afterwards. Maybe somebody from our peanut gallery can tell us where it is over in the Lincoln State. Meanwhile, that SimCrow car continuing on around, seeing what he can find in all the dirt and dust that is being kicked up here in the warm-up for the feature race of round 2 in the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series. Morton currently leading the warm-up times for what it's worth. I mean, it isn't worth a whole lot, but he led the warm-up times in the first and the opening one before the qualifying, and he's doing it once again. So clearly he likes the practices.
He clearly does, and it looks like most of these drivers like this. You see Brendan Myers taking a little trip skyward there. Most of these drivers liking the inside line. Brendan Myers was liking it a lot until he found that inside retaining wall. As here goes the checkered flag flying, Joe, and we get ready to grid up for the feature here tonight.
This should be a fun one for sure. This season has already gotten off to a great start. Let's hope we continue this as we now grid up for our feature here today. Let's go through your starting order. Chris Davis is on the pole with Steven Spies starting in second. Brandon Proudfoot, he qualified third. Well, he's going to start third in the end, as that's where he finished in the lead of his heat. Justin Morton will be P4 with Ron Snyder on the inside of row 3. It is J.R. Shepard starting 6th, followed by Jason Best in 7th. Billy Northcutt in 8th, and then it's Joe Segala starting 9th. Brennan Myers rounds out our top 10.
Robbie Robinson will be starting off in the 11th place position, followed by Matt Shanoski. The one to watch here tonight, your B-main winner, Carl Kilgore, will be starting off 13th, followed by Gary Clinton and John Wilson. In 16th is Todd Hetherington, followed by Jeffrey Harden and Ryan Seneker. And bringing up the last row of the grid is Chris Hazlip and Damian Hjorth.
And let's also remember, not only won the B-main, but Kilgore was our fastest qualifier. So he should be still trying to climb through. We'll see if he can do it as easily as he did in that consolation race. And we're hearing that Loves Park is next to Rockford. That, unfortunately, does not still help me. I'm sure my wife is going to be yelling at me at this point, because I've spent many trips up to the Chicago area. All right, we got one more pace lap to go with Chris Davis on the inside in that number 7. Will we see Proudfoot immediately try and jump into P2? We've seen a couple drivers attempt that. Spies will probably be wary of it in that 55, looking to try and go as quick as possible and shut the door on that inside. As we wait for the cars to go, green flag is out. 55 is off like a shot. Davis already down and in front of him. Oh, a little to the inside. Did the 22 catch the concrete? He keeps it going regardless. He'll stay in third. Many too wide throughout the field as they come around through 3 and 4.
And as they start to line it up, Proudfoot trying to work that low line again on Steven Spies. Looks like he's got a bit of a run, but Spies able to cover him off. Spies really the only one. Ooh, a little contact in the back there as the first caution comes out of the night.
Is that John Wilson, I think? Yes, John Wilson. Now, this was an interesting one. He's going to get some help from Gary Clinton, but it also involved that treacherous inside wall of turn 4.
We jump back to check the replay here. So there Wilson is in that purple and yellow 75. Clinton does get him a little bit. Yep, Clinton comes down on him ever so slightly, and Wilson just makes very hard contact with the wall. Looks like his car is relatively okay, though, and, you know, frankly, we talk about this quite a bit. These cars are like tanks. They will take an absolute lick and come back.
Yeah, that certainly won't stop him. Unless he has some sort of suspension damage, it should be like nothing happened. I cheated and looked on Google Maps, and Loves Park and Rockford are just south of the border up to Wisconsin. So that now makes sense on why he has the Go Pack Go. I figured it would be up towards the northern side of Illinois, and mystery solved for those who actually cared about where Loves Park is. Should get the one to go, I think, this time by, as our cautions tend to go very fast here on the dirt side of oval racing. And Chris Davis will once again start at the top with Spies behind him in second and Proudfoot in third, but they are going to go double file once again.
They will indeed, and you see here just how well Davis was able to get off that line and get himself in front. He's going to be looking for that again, really, really hoping to.
The pace truck is taking it down into pit lane. Let's see what we got. Waiting for the green flag. Good start for Davis. The 7 is off and ahead. Ooh, and down into the corner, awful close to the back of him. Spies tries to send it in deep, but this time it looks like the 22's got the measure of him down the inside, and he's got a nose ahead, but can he carry it off? He's going to get blocked a little bit because Davis is to his outside, pinched down. Here comes Spies back at him, seeing if he can reclaim P2.
And Speed's really one of the only ones able to make that high line work to any effect, but now Proudfoot powering his way up and starting to challenge Chris Davis for the lead on that low line. Holy Lord, Brandon Proudfoot's got a car here tonight.
Oh, and we got a caution. That's going to give him the lead because I'm pretty sure he was ahead. A big pileup. Brennan Myers involved in this one. We got a car upside down. That is Myers. And then I think Segala is the one with him. This started possibly with Myers himself. It did indeed. And guess which wall caught him?
Yep, I was watching this out of the corner of my eye, Joe. It just looks like Brennan got a little bit squirrely there in the corner. Also caught a little bit of the 47 there. That's Jason Best. We're going to go on board with Jason as he has the view of all views to this accident. There you see Myers. You see the car over-rotate, catches it, and bam! Right there under the spinning Myers.
See, now, my guess is because we're in New York, ooh, it's a 47, not looking too good. Now, that is a big enough of a lick that I think he's going to have to try and take his spare car. I think Brendan Myers thought we're in New York. I mean, maybe we need to be a little bit closer to New York City, but that was his best backspin that he could do. Just needs to work on his 6-step, and maybe he could go and compete in the next battle. Meanwhile, up at the front, the lead now goes to Brandon Proudfoot for this restart.
It does indeed, and what it's got to be absolutely terrifying for all these drivers is just how good he's been on the low line, but here it's time to go green.
Green flag is out, 22 is off. Well, but look at that. Davis is smart to things. He tries to cover off the inside. Still, Spies manages to get underneath him, but he's pinched way down back on the low side. Justin Morton in the number 9 has to catch it as he gets tipped. Thankfully, keeps from getting turned around too much. That was with Kilgore, actually, who's still stuck in 8th position.
He's stuck in 8th, but he's been on
Caution.
a charge as we have another caution.
Hazlip, unfortunately, is around on the front stretch. And that means that Steven Spies caught this one lucky. I think he's going to be 3rd now.
As we watch the incident with Hazlip here, diving into that corner, that is the 61 behind him. Let's see what happens. Oh, it just looks like Hazlip gets a little bit over-rotated. 61 of Brian Seneker just kind of catches the back of him and sends him spinning around a little bit.
Yeah, Seneker really kind of an innocent one in that one. Not many places he could go with that wall to the outside coming up very, very quickly. See Brennan Myers heading back out, but he is now multiple laps down, sadly. We've lost Damian Horth. I do believe, yeah, it looks like he did start because he's 6 laps down. We're on lap 9 right now, it appears. Excuse me, lap 14, yes. So farther ahead, I was still looking at Brennan Myers' timing and scoring there. Lap 14 that we are on currently. We're getting a lucky dog for Gary Clinton, who comes back to the lead lap in his number 6. That could definitely be valuable today, considering how many are dropping.
It certainly could, and those that are rising, Joe, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Carl Kilgore. He was up as many as 6 positions from his starting spot, had that little contact with Justin Morton rather, and that forced him back down the order, but he has really been able to make the car work on the inside line, but now he's starting to come into contact with some of the faster cars, so we'll have to see how he is able to continue his carve through the field.
All right, Proudfoot once again looking for the shot off of the tight turn 4. He is away. It's a good one. Not as good for Chris Davis, already to his inside. Spies has got a nose ahead into the corner, doesn't slide up in front of him. Polite but hard move there from Steven Spies. He's solidly into second. It's a battle for fourth between J.R. Shepard, and down to his low side, it is Northcutt in the double aught.
It is, and it looks like Shepard made a little bit of contact with the outside wall. That's going to put Northcutt really diving down the inside. He's almost going to get back into the back of Chris Davis. Northcutt is going to lead by a nose going into turn 4 as the caution comes out yet again here at Weedsport.
This is Seneca involved in this one, along with Gary Clinton and Hetherington. And I also see is the 25 yet again, Brendan Myers. Actually, I think it starts with him.
So we watched that's the 47 of best. Myers, the 25. Ooh, there's that contact in front with Wilson and Segala, and just sort of everybody gets into a slow motion bumper car there. No real damage to the cars, but enough to trigger the iRacing system to call a yellow.
Looking about as difficult as we worried it might be to race at this track. We have had some good racing, though. It's not been all cautions out here, but some of the drivers finding themselves struggling just to keep it pointed forward. Meanwhile, Jason Best is now our lucky dog this time. 47 coming back around in 17th. That leaves 2 cars that are not on the lead lap. Brendan Myers and Todd Hetherington, both of them 5 laps down. They're probably one of the few drivers out here that is hoping for cautions and see if they can get some of those back.
Most certainly, as there is almost no way to be able to carve back up through the field to get that lap back without the lucky dog. But we see everybody line up again, ready to go. Proudfoot again opting for the inside line. Spies to his outside. Behind them, Davis, Northcutt, Morton, Shepard, Kilgore, and Snyder.
All right, Brandon Proudfoot looking for his start. He goes quite early. Green flag is out. This time Spies has the shoe on the other foot and trying to go in a little too deep to keep Davis back. He gets into the rear of our leader. Proudfoot holds onto the car, but just barely up on the high side. Northcutt seeing if he can manage to hold on to third as he's got an edge over the 7. In fact, Davis slipping up too much, has to give him the ghost, at least temporarily. He sends it in hard into turn 1.
And Northcutt able to keep the momentum going up along the high side as we have another yellow coming out here. I think that may have been something involving Brendan Myers once again. I saw him out of the corner of my eye having a little bit of contact on the previous lap.
It was indeed. He's going to have a small touch with Clinton. Let's see as they come through 4 there. You can see they're already checking up. The 47 almost got hit big time. And then down into turn 1. A little over-ambitious, and the 25 pays for it.
Yeah, just dove it down in there with a little bit too much speed, trying to be later on the brakes than everybody. We'll jump on board with Brendan Myers here to be able to see exactly what this is like. So there, you see him throw the car in, tries to catch the slide as you're supposed to do, but just carried way too much speed. Joe, I think that right foot was just a little bit too heavy, maybe didn't drag the brakes nearly as much as he should have.
Means Myers won't be getting a lucky dog because of his involvement. He'll stay 5 laps down and in 18th position. We're past halfway in the feature race here for round 2 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. Proudfoot from 3rd to the lead at this point. Now where is Kilgore? He is up to 7th, it appears. So still chipping away, but these caution laps are not helping that 21.
No, they're not, and I've kind of been watching him as he goes. Is one of the stories here. He's had a couple of really good runs, gotten a little over-ambitious, and had to check himself up coming off of turn 2, and that's what's really blunted his momentum. But watching the second half of this race for him to kind of figure out that timing, I think he's got the car. He's just got to get the timing right.
One of the most desirable places currently has been third place so far. These restarts really offering you a good chance to get it a second, but then you get these cautions and you're unfortunately the place you don't want to be. Almost 3 wide down into the first corner. Are they going to make it out the other side? J.R. Shepherd the low side with the best shot, and it wasn't those 3 that brought out the caution. Instead it was Matt Shanoski at the back. Matt getting tipped around by Robbie Robinson, it appears, and then everybody behind, unfortunately, having to slow up and coming to a halt.
As we watch here, there you see a little bit of contact in the back there. That's actually Kilgore in front of him. Shanoski dives it in, taps Kilgore, and it just becomes bumper cars from there on out. Everybody getting into one another. Again, an incident where there's not going to be a lot of damage. There's not going to be too much to worry about the setups of the cars going forward, but just enough to trigger those automatic sensors to bring out the yellow.
The stewards have elected to change it to a single file start. I think they've had enough of that. So that'll change the dynamic, certainly in the final portion of today's race. Will we be able to keep it clean for the remainder? We're going to get started, I think, with about 11 or 12 laps to go here.
I think that's about right, if my math is correct. Hopefully this single file will get it. We've seen a lot of these issues coming through with multiple cars wide, so hopefully we can see a good blast to the finish from these guys in the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series.
Looking for a good show here, boys. And Brandon Proudfoot is looking to be the ringleader. Starting off at the top, we still have the lights on the pace truck. They should go out this time by, and it will indeed be 11 to go at the restart. Still got 19 of the 20 drivers running in the race. So even though there's been a lot of cautions, they've all been relatively slow incidents, like DJ's been talking about. Very little damage and not many drop-off of drivers falling completely out of the race. Down the back stretch, keeping it up way high. Brandon Proudfoot trying to cover off any sort of sneaky moves there from Steven Spies. And there he goes. Green flag is out for the 22. Huge jump over Spies down into the first corner. Pretty single file. Still a few of them taking looks down to the inside. Otherwise, this looks a lot cleaner than before.
Yeah, everybody being nice and conservative up here at the front, but there goes Chris Davis diving down a little bit on J.R. Shepherd, decided to back off and pull off, but here comes Sean Kilgore on Justin Morton. He's going to make a move up the inside. It looks like, can he get the dive off the corner that I've been seeing him do? He can indeed. Look at that momentum from Kilgore.
That's going to get him 6th place, but will it be temporary? Because Morton looks like he's trying to come back at him. Nope, over-under just not working for the number 9. Now Kilgore sets his sights for the top 5. Chris Davis in front of him, and they nearly are nose to tail through the first 2 corners.
That single file restart seeming to do the trick here as we are under green and going strong here. Steven Spies up front trying to challenge Brandon Proudfoot, but nothing doing at all. You can see just how close all these guys are across the field.
8 to go at this point. Spies giving chase on Proudfoot, but it's a closer battle for 3rd as Northcutt and Shepherd are side by side. Coming onto the front stretch, Shepherd banging the outside wall.
And Northcutt really able to hold that position, but Shepherd going to try to fight back again out of 2, and we've got a yellow.
Ron Seneker, oh no, and Kilgore just hit him. Oh no, Kilgore just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Seneker going to do his best Tony Hawk and absolutely rides the wall. Going to watch Kilgore and his incident first on this replay.
So there you see him coming on the high side here, Carl, trying to find something, and then boom, Seneker's right there, and I think he was just focused on driving away and didn't even think about trying to get the car down to the inside of the track. There you see the problem with the 61. Looks like he just got a little spun coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, before that he was actually on the wall, 2 wheels up, and eventually peeled it off of there, and that's what spun him once he came down. Significant damage on Kilgore from that hit on the right-hand side of the 21. Very few laps to make up for things. He's fallen down to 9th because of that incident.
He's going to have his work cut out for him to try to get back up to the front, especially with the single file restart. As we see again there, you see Brendan Myers going by to take advantage of that lucky dog rule, as looks like the lights are out on the pace truck, so we will have 4 laps to go when we go green.
Pressure is on for guys like Spees and Northcutt. Brandon Proudfoot has a pretty good reputation for these victories whenever he shows up. It's going to be a tough nut to crack for sure as we ride on board with Proudfoot, looking back at the fields. Look at how close he's trying to get up to him, all the way up to the bumper. As we accelerate away, it's worked decently. Green flag is out and down to 3 laps to go now. Brandon Proudfoot barely up ahead of the 55. Only going to be 2.5 now for Steven Spees to try and snatch this victory away from that yellow car.
And Spees is trying everything in his immense book of tricks to try to get at him, but Brendan Proudfoot just looking like he's got the absolute measure here, holding off Spees. Northcutt behind Shepard, starting to challenge him, along with Davis in there for 3rd as well.
If they can make it to the line, it'll be green to the end. It's a little ways down this front stretch, mind you. Proudfoot comes across, white flag is out, we're finishing under green. Proudfoot leading ahead of the 55. Another tiny look into turn 1 from Spees. It's going to be extremely difficult from here on out to try and overtake. The 22 is flawless though. No doors opened, and Brandon Proudfoot goes 2 for 2, winning here in New York.
Steven Spees across the line in 2nd. Billy Northcutt behind him to round out your podium. Northcutt doing a great job coming back from 8th on the grid to finish 3rd. He is one of the biggest movers of the race, but the class of the field, Brandon Proudfoot started 3rd, moved his way up, and once he got into that podium, that top step of the podium, he did not let it go.
As the fireworks erupt from the infield and Proudfoot finds his way to victory lane, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away. Welcome back to Weedsport Speedway. This 3/8 oval hosted round 2 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series, and Brandon Proudfoot came out with the win ahead of Steven Spees, following him in 2nd. He had to fight for that P2 with a number of drivers, Billy Northcutt being one of them, who finished 3rd. J.R. Shepard up to a P4. Chris Davis, who was on the pole and for much of the time was fighting for P2, wound up in 5th. Justin Morton with a 6th today. Kilgore, after losing his top spot in the first heat, climbing his way back through, settled for 7th. Just a kind of a miserable day for the number 21, unfortunately. Multiple mistakes and bad luck. Robbie Robinson was 8th with Ron Snyder in 9th and John Wilson in 10th.
Coming home in 11th was Jason Best, followed by Joe Segala and Gary Clinton. Matt Chinoski coming home in 14th. Chris Hazlett behind him. Brennan Myers, the first car, multiple laps down. You saw a couple incidents that Brennan got into. Behind him, Todd Hetherington, 5 laps down. Jeffrey Harden, 7 laps down. Ryan Seneker, 8 laps down at 19th. And Damon Kjorth, unfortunately not able to see the checkered flag here tonight.
That brings us to our winner of today's race, the number 22 of Brandon Proudfoot. And as we pull him in, Brandon, congratulations on a win, but you started from 3rd. If I'm honest, though, I think it seemed like that 3rd place starting position, if you weren't on pole, that was the place you wanted to be.
Yeah, you're front of the accordion if you're like at least in the first 3 rows when you're at a short track like this. But yeah, it's fortunate enough to be able to get under the 2 of them there at the start and get ahead before that caution fest happened.
Now, what is the secret to overtaking here? We saw a lot of drivers manage it, but it seemed like it took a bit to try and make it actually stick. What's your trick to trying to get by a car ahead?
Most important thing whenever you got a track like this, to overtake, you have to underdrive. You cannot blow your corner. You got to go in with just a small bit of pressure on the throttle going in, maybe even no throttle at all. And you can always underdrive a car. You can never compensate for missing your corner by overdriving it.
Well, this second round, as you mentioned, saw a lot of cautions, but we're going to a track that is much, much wider, like we saw in the first round with Eldora at Knoxville. Do you think you can make it a hat trick?
I believe so. That's one of my favorite places to go. I love running the inside there, and it's a real wide racetrack. And I believe for these street stocks, that cushion really builds up, but it leaves just enough grip down to the bottom for some two wide, even 3 wide racing at times, whenever conditions are right. So I think we'll have a blast next week.
Looking forward to it. That was Brandon Proudfoot, our winner here today, and the Dirt Street Stocks. And up next, we've got Steven Spees. DJ has caught up with him.
Well, Steven, it's a different week, but it seems like the same old story, just not able to get around Brandon. But you put up one heck of a fight. It was a good race out there, if nothing else.
Yeah, the green laps that we had some decent race, and unfortunately too many cautions, so we didn't really get a chance to really have a battle there. I think towards the end I may have had a little bit more speed than Brandon, but it's just so hard to pass here. You had to keep it locked on the bottom, and Brandon's really good at this and doesn't make many mistakes, so there wasn't probably going to be much of a chance for me to get a nose under him. But he had track position. I had to start outside at the beginning of the race, and he was able to sneak under, and that was the race.
It looked like for parts of it, you were one of the few guys who were kind of making the outside lane work ever so slightly. How was it going up to that with just that massive swath of rubbered in track?
Yeah, you had to keep the car pretty straight. The other thing, the setup tonight, I don't know if we're just using the iRacing default or not, but it's fixed setup, and it was really, really tight on top. So I had to, while trying to get the car to turn, you got to turn it in pretty hard, but also keep it straight to not scrub off speed. So it was tough up there. Like I said, the bottom was the place to be, just putting around there on the bottom. So I don't know, it was tough. It was slick.
It was. We were all talking about just how much it looked like there was no moisture out there. But, next week, headed to another track. I know you're not a big fan of the big wide open ones, but do you think you've got a chance to maybe finally take the challenge to Brandon at Knoxville?
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to race next week. I got a problem with my hand. I'm getting fixed on Monday. So, if I do decide to race, I'll probably be one-handed and I'll just be putting around the back. So, not next week, but I'll be back as soon as I can be, and we'll see what we got for him.
Well, Stephen, all the thoughts of us from GSRC to you and your hand in the next week.
I appreciate that. Nothing major, but time to get it fixed.
I get that. Better sooner rather than later. Thank you, Stephen. That was your second place finisher, Steven Spees. And finally, Joe Peak has caught up with our third place finisher, Billy Northcutt.
which is pretty impressive because Billy started in 8th place, up 5 spots to take a podium today. Billy, being stuck in the middle of the pack where we saw a lot of dangers as drivers kept getting into one another. How'd you avoid the mayhem?
Man, I tell you, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll tell anybody that'll want to listen that this is my worst track and I'm horrible here. And I really wasn't expecting a whole lot out of this race. I was just gonna kind of hang out, but early on, I mean, it seemed like it was a little 2-lap spurts, and there'd be a caution every couple of laps, and it seemed like every one of those spurts I'd gain a spot. Like I was 8th, I restarted 7th, then 6th, then 5th. Just seemed like every little 2-lap spurt, I would just take one spot, and then I found myself in 3rd, and Brandon and Steven were just too fast. I'm not near good enough here to mess with them, so I basically kind of had to just try to hold my line the best I could and try to hold off Shepard there, and I was able to pick up the podium.
That you did. And, I was talking to Brandon about that 3rd restart spot. Is it kind of a case every time when you're starting there that you're tempted to put your nose in and try and take 2nd away?
Yeah, you kind of want to get up there, and you feel pretty vulnerable because you can't go into the turn exactly like you want to. You have to make sure that you're paying attention to what the leader's doing. So if you go a little too slow, then you risk getting ran over as well. So you just go in there with your eyes closed and hope that you make it out of turn 1 and 2 for the most part when you're starting 3rd. And there's a lot of clean guys in here. There's a lot of cautions tonight, but I wouldn't put that on bad or rough driving. This track's really darn hard to get around in these street stocks. It's hard to even just get the thing to turn if you don't start turning halfway down the straightaway. So I would say those cautions would happen in any league whatsoever. And but these guys, there's nobody out here that's banging you on purpose. I felt a lot more comfortable than I would have like in an official race.
I see that you hail from the Plains Club, which is a bit vague from iRacing. Are you anywhere close to Knoxville in there?
Yeah, I live in Salina, Kansas. We're about 6 hours away from a lot of those tracks in Iowa, and we go up there to Knoxville and Boone and Stewart, all the tracks over there in Iowa. We visit there quite frequently, and there's great racing there and here in our state of Kansas. I mean, there's dirt track racing was always the biggest sport around when I was growing up, it seemed like. So that's why I was really glad to be able to hop on iRacing and at least pretend to do it.
Well, it's as close as we can get in a lot of cases right now. Congratulations once again on a podium, sir, and hopefully we'll see you over in Iowa.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I just want to thank my dad and my wife for always watching these races and stuff and every league that I run and making it seem like it really matters. And it really makes it a lot of fun for me. And I mean, I've just been really trying hard to get better, and they're a big part of that. So I want to thank them, and also my Dirt Panda teammates for always believing in me and making me feel like I'm better than I am.
Great stuff there from the double lot of Billy Northcutt, but it's going to close us out as that's the last of our interviews. So we want to, of course, thank the Bootleg Racing League for bringing us back for another great season of coverage of the Dirt Street Stock Series. And also a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. And then thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media outlets. Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is @GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we got a merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com, but there's a link in the description below. You can click to go there. While you're down there, make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, going to Knoxville, that'll be Friday, January 22nd at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.